So, welcome to a triple book launch with Silver Bow Publishing. We're really excited to be here tonight to celebrate new releases from Katarina von Fretwell, Kathy Ashby, and Mary Lee Bragg. My name is Megan Hakkinen. I'm a two-time world champion endurance cyclist, the author of two adventure cycling memoirs, and just got back from doing my first race of the season in Morocco. Silverbow Publishing is an independent creative book publisher committed to publishing great literature in all genres. Candace James is at the helm of Silverbow as general manager. Silverbow books are available in print retail bookstores and libraries worldwide. If you'd like to purchase a print version of any of these wonderful collections, please contact your local bookstore, ask them to order a copy in from Ingram Distribution. You can also purchase the book directly from the publisher if you prefer at silverbowpublishing.com. Ebook versions are available on Amazon. Today we have General Manager Candace James here with us, and I'll invite her to speak a bit about her experience working with the authors before we jump into the readings. Welcome, Candace.
Thanks, Megan. And I guess maybe everybody's too young to remember this, but there was an old guy that used to say, "A wonderful, a wonderful, a wonderful," and that's what it is. Working with these three writers, they're wonderful. They're great writers. They're great people. They're from Ontario, and it's always a pleasure to work from the west end of Canada here with some people from the east end. And all I can say is I love their books. I know if you purchase them, you're going to love them also. And I am a woman of very few words, so I shall turn it back to Megan to start the show on the road.
Thank you so much, Candace. We're really excited to have you here to join us today. And our first reader tonight is Katarina von Fretwell. So Katarina von Fretwell's 10th and 11th poetry books with her cover art came out in 2024. Familiar and Forgiveness, Ace of Swords, and Holy in My Nature with Silver Bow Publishing. Her eighth, Dancing on a Pin, Inanna 2015, was longlisted for the League of Canadian Poets Lothar Prize and was part of the International Festival of Authors Battle of the Bards. Her poems have appeared in many journals and anthologies, including Poems in Response to Peril and Women, Life, Freedom, about Ukraine's resilience and Iran's courage, respectively. And I'm really excited to have you kick things off for us tonight. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Megan. Thank you for hosting this. It's wonderful to be and to see Candace in the flesh, Zoom-wise, and also to be reading with Kathy and Mary Lee. And thank you, everybody who's come. Okay, Holy in My Nature. That's my art on the cover, the wave. And it's about my love of nature and my fear for nature's well-being and longevity. So without further ado, Weapons of Mass Revelation. Edward Bertinsky, Jennifer Bakewell, and Nicholas Dupensier, the book Anthropocene. There I stand, stilled, silenced, sepulchral, gazing not only at a photo show at the AGO, but also at a cathedral of sarcophagi, each mural or film still, digitally stitched like an electronic quilting bee, unflinchingly mirrors the fast track of our human impact. I bow before this uncanny altar, lit up in rhino horns, gouged earth, steaming rivers, toxic tailing, smog trails, barren bluffs. How on earth did the author photographers risk their lives by slapping lenses, high onto choppers, low onto diving bells, to poke inside mountains, seafloors, sinkholes, swallowing family homes, oil refinery islands, stinking waterways. Drones increasing their reach, the trio presents this final frontier, eroding and exploding, frying and dying, as we elbow space, prod soil, stifle rivers, shoot for fun, eat all we see, grow our garbage, not to grind us in guilt, but to goad us into stewarding that which sustains us, trees to breathe, soil to flower, water to float life. And I think my poems explain themselves, so I'll just get right into them. Personal Anthropocene. Through reciprocity, the gift is replenished. All of our flourishing is mutual, from robin wall kimmerer, braiding sweetgrass. Solastalgia defines an individual's sorrow over climate change caused losses. Near Perry Sound, where I lived for 40 years, I mourned the drop populations, fox, moose, bear, beaver, turtle, woods walks and swims empty as a cemetery. I tallied barberries crowding out wintergreen, zebra mussels muscling out pickerel and pike. Come spring, I emptied the patch of ramps until swept into an attitude of gratitude, respect for this unsolicited bounty, and horror at the colossal carbon cost of my longing for leeks in winter. No sense preening at the epic named for mankind. My footprint reflects the oversized ego that deems people queen of all species, a phrase refracting my rare but unstoppable bouts of shopping, mainly for bargains and books, shelves and closets overflowing. This next poem, Judge's Choice and the World Around Us. I lived in Seguin Township from April 82 to April 2023. Swirling grain of weathered nurse log, denuded pine rising from wetlands, field of daisies, buttercups, irises, indigo budding homing teal rays, pattern quilt of autumnal leaves, road swathed through crimson gold, wintergreen berries breathing cooler air, squirrels playing tag up and down the oak, sky blindingly cobalt at high noon, snow crystals chorusing in prisms, beach bravely bearing sunlit leaves, rabbit, partridge, here now hidden. Trillium herald the snow's recession, corn goddess and god thirstily kissing, black leaves sway under swamp surface, woodpeckers drumming ironwood in sync, birth, growth, decay, death procession, seasoned holy, embodies my stages, presenting before my awakened eyes, eye wide, gratitude no mere platitude, sun dimpling, snow smoothing, lightning revealing. How can I not revere these pageants inviting witness, preserve every imperiled speck and act? And this next poem was in the League of Canadian Poets Poetry Pause. COVID correction. Mother Nature unwrinkles her brow, cleansed of pesky jet contrails. Cargo and cruise ship scarcity unclogs nature's veins of garroting particles. Waters, less bitingly torrid, regain Earth's AC rhythm, sea, cloud, rain, sea, cloud. Her desiccated, desertified quilts, regreened, cradle seed, feed, and herbs. But COVID is cruel. Climate refugees and heroes die beside eco-criminals. The tipping point teeters on COVID's blood-red, prickly surface, our wake-up shock, admitted only in extremity. We're cloistered. Our home exhales in relief. This next one, To Be a Bay. Only 30% of English words are verbs, but in Potawatomi, that proportion is 70%. A bay is a noun only if the water is dead. When bay is a noun, it is defined by humans, from braiding sweetgrass. Imagine a language that allows a bay to be a bay, not just a lump on a map, but a non-human person, singing to cumulus and conversing with mergansers. Georgian Bay is more than a biosphere, designating at-risk species. She was my home for 40 years, a residence, housing not just cottages stuffed with objects, but also pike, pickerelweed, snappers, swimmers. The English language reflects our obsession with things, as if naming controls their nature. In Potawatomi, things are named nouns only if separated from living beings. A basket woven from black ash and sweetgrass reminded me they walked together, chemical-free. This living art held blueberries and pine cones, gifts gracing Georgian shores, and my trail hugging Lake Ontario in St. Catharines. And this next poem is part of a series called Burning Up. Can we put the fire out? Why does the Pacific plastic island vastly dwarf Lytton, BC? The international inferno is Lytton, the town that flamed into nada, nothing. Rest in peace, 2021. Now we're pouring accelerant onto an overheated planet where fires devour cars and condos, cornfields and cougars, as if the globe's one big campground bonfire. Once healthy hikes dance us into cancer. Sequoia and cedar crackle into charred tombstones. Caring communities flare into bare ash. Flora and fauna fade into soon-to-be fossils. Haven't we pioneered solutions right now, at least to lessen the ferocity, all-consuming winds, floods, fires, allowing every being on earth the slight odds of survival? And my final poem is called Honorable Harvest. Never take the first plant you find, as it might be the last, and you want that first one to speak well of you to others of her kind, also from Braiding Sweetgrass. How do I escape the system of dominion over the non-human and heart trust? They feed, cure, and house all, teaching reciprocity. My former forest taught me to hope. I trekked to a hillside flush with plump green leaves, trillium trumpeting wild leek season. The first two ramps resisted, replying no to the permission I sought. So I harvested only 3 per patch. Those thick-stemmed big bulbs mellowed, my seafood and veggie medleys. Their leaves peppered my salads. Grateful for this bounty, I mothered my haven. Mindful of ironwood's life pulse, I chanted, save this tree, this forest, this planet, a prayer that moved with me to the garden city. But it's all in the respect, thinking leek, pine, and toad, or mulberry, catalpa, and squirrel, as he or she, not as it, takes time to soften but activate my footstep. What's in my vision to ensure there are still trees to breathe, soil to flower, water to float life. Thank you very much.
Oh, great.
Thank you so much for that wonderful start to the evening, Katerina. I think this is the perfect time for your poems in the world and where we are today, and everything is so, yeah, just so relevant and timely. And it was wonderful to hear from you.
Oh,
I'm
thank
really
you.
excited to invite our second writer up. We have Mary Lee Bragg. Hello and welcome. So, Mary Lee Bragg lives in Ontario with her husband, poet Colin Morton. Her poetry and short fiction have been published in Ascent, Grain, The Windsor Review, Queen's Quarterly, and e-zines in Canada and the US. She has published a novel and two chapbooks of poetry. Her first full-length poetry collection, The Landscape That Isn't There, 2019, was shortlisted for the Ottawa's Archibald Lampman Prize. Airplane Earth by Mary Lee Bragg is available in print and ebook from Silver Bow Press. We're really happy to have you join us today, Mary Lee, and share some of your new release with us.
Thank you very much, Megan. And thank you, Katerina, for that wonderful reading. It's a tough one to follow, but it was great to listen to. So Airplane Earth, this book, is a collection, which means it was not written to a plan. It was occasional poems written since my first collection came out. So basically since 2020, it's been an eventful 5 years. The nature of a collection is that you find out at the end what it is that you've got and look at the themes that have emerged. And so I tried to group the poems in this according to the various different themes. And one of the ones that came out very strongly to me is that I write a lot about family. And I'm going to read, this is a particularly meaningful poem to me because it's my son's birthday today. It's one of those birthdays that ends in 0. So if you're out there, Jeff, happy birthday. If you're not out there, so this is called Mary Writes a Letter to Rachel. The envelope is addressed to Mrs. Norman Bragg, CO General Hospital, and 4 cents postage brought it from Rocky Ford to Calgary in time to reach her there. Another hand has penciled maternity above the name. It is date stamped the day after my birthday, and on the back are pencil tracings of a baby's hand and foot. Grandma speaks of great rejoicing. Without seeing me, she is sure I am a lovely daughter. The neighbors are having girls too. Everyone gets what they want. One has named his baby Loretta Ann, and she cautions, don't you pick a name like that. She has canned 15 quarts of cherries for the family and 15 pints for Dad. He would not live to eat them, those sugarless diabetic cherries. Grandchildren are swimming in the irrigation ditch and everyone is happy. She calls my mother darling girl and signs off, good times are ahead. Grandma includes another note from her daughter, Mary, who is also busy canning 23 pints of rhubarb. My aunt's spelling is ad lib, the second E in Henry and the K in picnic, but she conveys hemorrhagic septicemia clear enough. Her husband is vaccinating calves. This is what my mother read in maternity in that week before our lives together began. She traced my hand and foot and put the envelope in her scrapbook. She wanted me to be like them, to preserve the sweetness of that moment. So she named me Mary. Then, because she was my mother, because cautioning about a name like that is like saying, don't think about alligators, she made it Mary Lee. So I can't actually read with these glasses. It's been quite a while since that birthday. One of the other things that I noticed as I was putting this collection together is that I actually write a lot about visiting museums, including this one, at the British Museum. When it rains, they pour through the museum doors. Crowds admire all this archaeology, treasure buried when the invaders were near, helmets and swords from Saxon graves. We pause before Parthenon marbles, stand behind the masses at the Rosetta Stone, grab selfies by Assyrian gates. Too tired to talk about plunder, we find one place in perfect peace, the Hall of Islamic Art. Alone, we look at tiles and carpets, trace curving cursive letters. Crusaders admired these designs and brought home cloth embroidered with Arabic words. Renaissance painters wrapped them round the Virgin Mary. In oils today, we see Virgin and Child bordered by Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Oh, yeah.
As I said, these poems were written 2020, 21, 22, very fretful time. And one of the things I think we all try to do is to see ahead a bit. This is called It's Fiction. All these years, science fiction has been getting us ready for the world we live in now. The commanders of Gilead occupy the citadel. They're burning books. We're probing Jupiter, and robots talk about their feelings. It's not post-apocalyptic. The disaster isn't finished happening yet. Our glasses will shatter on the steps of the ruined library. The statue of a hand holding a torch will loom out of the sand. As I said, we do try to look forward, so divination. By the stars, by birds in flight, by the entrails of sacrifice, by tea leaves, by a glove or photo, tarot spread or crystals, we seek to know the future. Who will survive? Who will thrive? Where will the money come from? We think so little of the past, and yet it tells us all we need to know. Hector's blood will spill out on the plain. A baby will shatter below the battlements. Helen will turn her back upon the burning city and sail again to Sparta. So during the time of writing this collection, one of the things that I got really close and friendly with was TV. So this is to my television. You are rectangularly calm in your place above the hearth. From across the room, I summon you. Tell me what is in the world. You show me disaster after tragedy, houses tossed in floodwaters, cell phones, shaky pixels blurred by atomized cement. Your color is true, your sound fidelity itself. You teach me to cook, but not how to shop for those ingredients. You lead me into jeopardy, but offer walk-in baths and stair chairs. Late at night in your upper channels, the call of love resounds. Its bouncing simulacrum warms the room as once the fireplace did. We were lucky enough to have one of those channels where it's nonstop movies all the time. So after a year or so of lockdown, this is the poem that came. This is called Subtext. Day 500 or so. We watched the Swedish movie, the one about the marriage, and the subtitles ran continuously even when the characters weren't speaking. We didn't notice right away that words and actions were out of sync, since that's what the movie was really about. But by the end, when the embrace at the door was subtitled, "I always hated your smug, oily smile," and the welcome drink, "Send an ambulance right away," by then we knew something was wrong. But it was so right for that movie, and we were so stoned, more merry than stunned, that we watched the last half hour with no subtitles and understood everything as if the script was written for us. Shortly after the invasion of Ukraine, I wrote this one, Four Horsemen, but of course, since I'm from Ottawa, I had to give it a French title, so it's called Les Quatre Chevaliers. Of course they're not on horses. Who does that anymore? Pestilence rides a Harley, a smoking, noisy hog, and rears up, turning donuts in the parking lot. War rolls up in a convoy of trucks and tanks, soldiers under canvas waiting their turn. Famine walks barefoot, starving people cut his horse to ribbons and ate it raw. And death? Death sees no reason to park his sacroiliac on a horse's bony back. He lolls under a tree while the other three work. If he had lips, a cigarette would dangle from them. Death loves our villains and quotes our heroes. Death needs ammunition, not a ride. One of the things that seems to appear on the news with depressing regularity is level of violence against women. And this is just a particular incident that kind of caught my attention. It's called Tallahassee Hot Yoga. The shooter travels from out of town, consults schedules online, signs up for the 5 p.m. he thinks will be busy. He is looking for women who wear yoga pants, leave the house, refuse to sleep with him. They are in child's pose when he opens fire and kills 2. Then the only man in the class attacks him with an upright vacuum cleaner, and everyone else runs. It's as if they set out, these 2, to show the extremes of masculine behavior, even in their choice of tools. The loser with the Luger, the incel who labels himself by what he doesn't do and hasn't got, and the hero who wears tights but no cape, and like some potent god, hurls the vacuum into him. Where did we all learn this? Well, back to the movies, called An Education. We were schooled in palaces, capital places, the Plaza, Rialto, Tivoli, red carpeted foyers lined with mirrors, mirrors reflecting mirrors, and vistas of fronded plant. We learned how the West was won, the River Kwai was bridged, the 10 Commandments handed down. We learned that the correct response to being slapped is, "Thanks, I really needed that." Much later, we learned who wrote the script. So I'm going to close with the title poem just because I really want to depress you. No end. This is Airplane Earth. Stowaways tumble from overhead bins as our plane cants to vertical. Oxygen masks dangle, but no air flows, and who can reach? 2 passengers cram every cheap seat, and those crouched in the aisles bowl to the front. The half dozen in the washrooms are fucking while the crowd in the galley has licked clean every tray. In first-class pods, the few recline, watch zombie movies on their pull-out screens while the plane speeds up, the windows are full of mountain, and the pilot hammers on the cockpit door. Thank you for your attention. I know you're all muted, but I could hear the silence anyways.
Great.
Thank you so
Going
much
to
for
check
that.
in chat. I saw a few messages coming by.
I think there was a really strong response to your words, Mary Lee, and hearing you read those poems out loud really intensified the power behind them. And I just thank you for sharing some of yourself with us and bringing that wide range of poetry to us today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have one more reader today. I'm really excited to introduce Kathy Ashby.
Hi.
Hi, Kathy. We're so happy to have you wrap things up. And after this, we'll have a little time for a Q&A. So Kathy Ashby's writing has appeared in Toronto Star, Muskoka Magazine, National Glass Gazette, Ontario Craft Council Magazine, Artichoke Magazine, Rabble, and Chicken Soup for the Soul. Kathy's poems have appeared in Descant Magazine, Canadian Women's Studies Magazine, Inanna Publications, and read on CBC Radio. Kathy is an associate member of the League of Canadian Poets. She is the author of a novel, Carol, A Woman's Way, published in 2009, and she's here today to read from her new collection, From the Rim of the Bowl. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you, everyone. Really nice to be here. I've never done a Zoom poetry reading before. It's very nice. I like it. So I'm just going to hold up my book. It's From the Rim of the Bowl, and it's a lovely Candace James painting that after about 25 pictures she sent me, we I chose this one and I really like it. So I'm going to read a poem to try and explain the title of the book. Things my granddaughter teaches me. She is now 4 years old. She is eating her cereal the same way she eats life. She takes it all in with a high degree of drama, gobbling, chomping, slurping. I have finished my cereal, but watching how she enjoys hers makes me hungry again. She scrapes the rim of the bowl. She suddenly stops and stares at me, aware that I am watching her. Careful to push her long hair out of the way, she then takes a quick breath. She says, like she really needs to tell me to explain, I left some of the bits up on the side for later, for the crunch, when I want some crunch. I say, somebody once said that you really only ever taste the first and the last bite of every meal. Her eyes go round. That's so sad, Baba. You're right, I say, and then I lean over and give her a little kiss. So I put a little bookmark in my book now to explain from the rim of the bowl, because after, I don't know, about 25 years of writing poems for a collection, I thought I'm savoring my little bits and pieces to put into a collection, my first one. And so that's why I called it From the Rim of the Bowl. And my granddaughter's almost 16 now, and she'd be horrified to know I even mentioned her name tonight. Typical teenager. So now I'm going to read a poem. I got a really good, I don't know, sort of like a signal from that I should write a poem about this when I was walking in Croatia. And that's my ancestry. That's why I'm called Baba. That's grandmother in Croatian. Sarajevo. I wonder why I chose this city, this rainy night, this street now deserted. Then I see you walking towards me with a look that says, I like you in any language. Puddle fun beneath me, my feet splashing, you are laughing. I feel a hunger for oneness like lovers sleeping, and hear the joy of church bells ringing and those peaceful voices inside singing. But I spot the bullet holes in the walls of the cathedral. Then a sudden tip-tapping, drips go flinging, and we're strangers passing. I'm left with that hollow sound. I'll always wonder in lonely reminiscing, it was only our umbrellas kissing. Okay, my next poem is called, well, first I'll explain. I read a lot of poetry, like I'm sure all of you do. And of course, William Shakespeare is amazing. And he wrote a poem about all the world is a stage, and you know how men and women have their places in it. But as I read it, I realized he's only talking about the men. And so it got me thinking, well, what about women? And what are all the stages of their life? And what does it mean to them? And what's important? And I thought about women's breasts, because women's breasts are important from the very beginning to the very end of their life. So I wrote this poem called A Breast of a World. Starting out as naked no shapes, we cry to the sky. Baby soft network, hungry for a nipple, not her own, found without eye. Soon is toddler, tumbling bumpety, recognized within wailing instant, picked up, forgotten, and buried against deep bosom generosity. In a blink, girlish glee, playing dress-up, red lip makeup, in a wink, a la lace, in a twinkling, a la cleavage, push-up bra, a la va-va-va-voom, stealing looks from everyone in the room. Under burning gaze, warm dough rises, contact with fire, altering elemental anatomy, cup for first kiss against whiskered lips, sweet, rough reality, triggering body quakes, leaving radiating pleasure, telescopic tingling firmed in their wake. Then mountains out of molehills, heaves and valleys on course, soft mewling lips against bursting faucets, cocooned purpose quenching thirst. Eventual shift in axis, fading, sagging, callous puppetry played by gravity. Maniacal moods, maniacal menses, maniacal menopause, dominant orbs casting swollen spells over any cause. A sudden crisis, a lump that can't be swallowed, allowing medical intervention, left with memory mangled hollow. And slowing down, feeling the ever of never, never dumb, hope capsized, mimic martyrdom. Now, pretty daughter mocks her mother's memory manual. Daily bawl or brawl, must strive to think like sage. But daughter disappears, taking out the door, perky profile, the best page. What emotions class, then tearless wonder, where memories of who, when, why are rehashed. Final twist, overview over last night's bouquet. Cool, pale, languished bloom of grace, approaching shapeless, dropped, dew-robbed petal against the hospital sheet, rest place. So I've read that at some charities for cancer awareness, breast cancer awareness, and it's gotten good reactions. I just have one more little poem here. Oh no, I have two poems, sorry. Benefit of Within. In these tumultuous times, and I'm going back to COVID and war in Ukraine, and now I think we all need to be spiritual and pray to get back some sanity in our lives. So I wrote a poem that can be looked at as a prayer for people to do. So it's called Benefit of Within. Casting off the soul crew towards internal sea, surfing waves of spiritual space, you take yourself into the center of your temple. In the cathedral of your mind, you cruise your cerebral church. In the splendor of your soul, you sail, searching peace. Within the walls of your heart, you explore your personal worth. You pick up pieces of discarded dreams, sweet and sour thoughts, plunge and scrub clean harsh words, glue back broken caresses, blink away blackness, and take time to re-savor rushed through flavor. Sensing life secure, you arrow forth, unsnarl from mortal coils, and drop into golden gossamer hands, speaking to God in your own way. You hear the value of blessed treasures, spreading you generous. You see a table in a sun-drenched field. For gathered friends, there is something for everyone that each one especially likes. The shutter clicks, imprinting enrichment. Airy thoughts inflate and bubble, catching an upward current. You feel the softness of rebirth, refreshed, feeling bigger than whole. From the inside, you kiss yourself alert. Wave by on the other shore of prayer that you can cross every day. And one more short one, Up from Down. Taking in a prayer breath, giving my hopes some air, daydreams surface fat and jolly and take away the melancholy. As sadness leaves a gnawing gap, part of me tries to grab sad back, but I wrestle it on and give it wings until the hole inside me fills and sings. So that's me. I just want to say one thing about poetry. When I wrote my book and I told friends, they said, "Oh, I'd like to buy your book." But poetry, oh, no, I don't read poetry. So that's been a bit disappointing. And I like to tell people or educate people that poetry can also be considered lyrics. And then people kind of get it, like, oh, a song. Oh, yeah, I love, the words to, maybe Leonard Cohen or Bob Dylan. I'm working with some musicians, and one musician really likes the poem Benefit of Within. She's a great guitarist and has a wonderful voice. And so she's going to try to put some of my poems to music. And I'm really excited about that. And we'll see what happens. It's just something totally new. It just happened really about a week or two ago. That's me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Kathy. I really enjoyed hearing your poems. We have some comments in the chat. People love the ones about breasts as well. And, I think what you say about poetry is interesting. I think as a society, at least in North America, it's somehow viewed as maybe elitist, or people, didn't do well in school and so they don't want to read it as adults. I love
Right.
the kind of sneaky way of like, oh, it's like lyrics. Everyone loves music.
Yeah.
To kind of, maybe feed people poetry and they don't know don't even know that they're getting it. And what are
Right.
labels anyways? So,
Hmm.
well, now that we've heard from all three of our authors, I'm just going to spotlight everybody and invite your questions as audience members.
Yeah, I'm not good at putting messages in the chat, so I want to thank everybody for the messages. And I really enjoyed Mary Lee and Kathy's poetry. I hope we can do a book exchange, the three of us. That would be fun.
Yeah, there is mail service. We could do that.
Yeah.
And we're all in Ontario. We could actually, without too much trouble, maybe meet up somewhere.
Yeah.
Can all
Are you
come
going
Yeah,
to
down?
I don't
Kingston on
drive
July
highways
1st?
any longer, but
Yeah.
if we met in Toronto, I can take the mega bus.
Okay, well, let's work on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
Okay.
Sounds good. We've all got each other's emails, so you can do that off
Yeah,
Okay.
The triplets can meet in person.
back channel. That was it. Not
Yeah.
offline. It was back
Yay.
channel. Yes.
We have a lot
So
of wonderful
gorgeous.
comments in the chat, and yeah, I don't see any hands up right now. I see one from, is it Deanna?
Diana.
Diana. Hi, Diana. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Thank you so much, man. Listening to poetry, I forgot how wonderful it is. I am a friend of Katerina's, and I thought I would just stay for cats, which is not fair and good, but I was drawn in. So here I am still, and I'm happy I stayed. My question is, how does one know when they have a collection ready? So I'd never heard of, I think I've known of it, but it was interesting to hear. I think that might be for Mary Lee and Kathy, since Katerina, I think you had a thematic, your book is
Yeah.
theme-based.
You judge by the size of your piles. Because no, seriously, I mean your piles of paper. Like if you have start sorting your poems and you've got 5 or 6 in one set and 6 or 7 in another set, at that point you're thinking, okay, now what are the connections between that group of poems and this other group of poems? You start doing what people in my poetry group call writing the long poem. Trying to figure out how to take the 50 or 60 poems that you've got and maybe winnow it down to 40 and sort of give it some kind of through line. And my collection gelled. Actually, Doris Fisher is with us here, and Doris read it and said, well, you've got 2 poems in there. One is a letter from the past and the other is a letter to the future. So if you start with one and end with the other, and as soon as I had the beginning and the ending of the collection, everything else just kind of started to flow. But it was from one pile of poems to another. I can't be any clearer than that, but you actually do have to have them printed out on separate pages in order to see what you've got. For me, it's a very spatial thing. It's the dining room table, it's the floor, or it's someplace where you can actually physically shuffle them around.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Good, I'm glad it's helpful. It's actually a
I
very
have
fun
to go
process.
fairly soon, so I'd just like to say this has been a wonderful evening.
It has been a really wonderful
to hear
evening.
your poems, Katerina. Thank you for those.
Oh, and I love Pestilence Rides a Harley.
Oh,
And I loved all your alliteration, Kathy.
Thank you. Mhm.
Any other responses to that great question about when you know you have a collection or?
I think the themes sort of naturally group themselves.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
I just did a chapbook titled "What a World," and anything can go into "What a World" because there is so much craziness in the world that it can be quite wide ranging. So I brought in experiences from Lithuania and Russia and China and Vietnam um, and well, I have a poem that's the title is Trump's inmate prison number. It
Yeah.
was fun writing that. So, yeah, just sort of the themes kind of suggest themselves.
I have a question, I guess, kind of related. When you were putting together these projects, were there pieces of writing that any of you felt like, oh, I really love this poem, but it doesn't fit, so I'm going to put it over here and figure out what to do with it later? Or anything you kind of had to excise that, maybe was hard to do, or yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
As I said, you start off at 60 or 70 and you end up with 40. It's just the nature of trying to make sure that the poems can actually talk to each other and that there's some kind
Yeah.
of through line. I
Right.
didn't realize until I was reading mine aloud just how incredibly depressing they are. Oh, Mary Lee, get help. Oh,
Yeah.
it was very cathartic to write them.
Yeah, I
Oh,
have a lot of
writing rants is wonderful.
I have a lot of
Yeah.
poems I didn't realize until I put them together about snow. I do a lot of snowshoeing and, well, you can tell my outdoors here. So, and a lot of other poets throughout history have written about snow. And I'm just amazed at how many poems I have about snow. So that was one category in my collection.
I love hearing a bit about your processes and how things come together by actually, in Mary Lee's case, printing things out and making the piles, or I think also Mary Lee maybe reading it out loud. You realize
Oh, yeah.
things that you
Yeah.
didn't when you're just typing things, and like Kathy mentioned about snow, kind of being able to take a step back to realize it's actually a
Yeah.
theme.
Yeah,
Oh, I
So,
should mention I'm in a poetry workshop that meets weekly, and I've been part of it now for 12 or 13 years. So we do a lot of reading aloud, and I get continual feedback from
feedback.
people
Yeah,
who
feedback.
are themselves poets and who have an ear for what's going on.
Right.
Doris, who I mentioned, is in this group, and it's absolutely invaluable. I don't think poetry is something that you can write isolated from other people. It's
No.
fundamentally communication. You know?
Yeah, I'm in
So yeah,
four
I've really enjoyed
workshops.
this evening. It's been great to, show off.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm in three Zoom workshops and one in person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's marvelous. I mean, I learned so much. I've been writing for 50 years, but
Wow.
Yeah.
but it's a learning experience till I die. There's
Yeah.
always
Oh, yeah.
something more to learn, and it's
Right.
inspiring, motivating. And
And
now
what
I
you're
need a
learning
bio
is who
break, and
you
then
are.
pardon?
What you're learning is who you are and what you're
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. When you write it down and you read it, then that's you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to go, but thank you all very much. And
Okay.
we'll be in touch. And thank
Great.
you, everybody who came.
Wonderful hearing you,
Snow has
Katerina.
stopped.
You too, Mary
My
Lee.
snow has
Oh,
stopped.
Diane
And
and
thank you,
Smith.
Megan and Candace.
I
Thank
just
you.
want to say wonderful before you go, Katarina, like the evening and everybody just looks so relaxed and you're you just come through with your words, your images, and like all three of you. So I'm just so glad that I could be here. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Susan.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
This was great. Should do it
Yeah.
more often.
Yeah, good idea.
Well, I'm just going to stop the recording now.